In 2017, my beautiful son Paddy was diagnosed with a pilocytic astrocytoma, a brain tumour growing within his optic nerve. He was only 8 months old. Paddy began weekly chemotherapy for the next 14 months. Every 6 weeks we would travel to Sydney to get permission to start again, and every 3 months he would undergo an MRI under general anaesthetic. Then, the day before Paddy's first birthday, a day of even greater significance for all he had endured, I lost the first man I ever loved, my dad, after a long battle with Parkinson's disease. To say at this point in time that I felt hard done by and heartbroken is an understatement. In fact, I absolutely hated my life. And I hated this new normal that everyone kept telling me I needed to embrace. But perhaps more than that, I hated the fact that I'd become a completely helpless victim, so unable to change the misery of it all. And so I sat in this space for months, living the narrative of a helpless victim. I couldn't change Paddy's diagnosis, nor could I cure him, and I felt like I had lost all control. Until I came across this quote by Viktor Frankl: "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Frankl was a Jewish professor of psychiatry, detained in Auschwitz during the Holocaust, and this profound quote was one of his realizations whilst in captivity. Empowered by the notion that perhaps we do still have power, even in the darkest of times, I decided to take ownership of my situation, and instead I set about changing myself. You see, the narratives we tell ourselves are so important, for they have the ability to limit our potential and keep us stuck, or, if we are brave enough, we can use them to create bold narratives and create a rich and fulfilling life for ourselves, and in the process, also impact and change our communities. For me, the key to changing my mindset and outcome in life was gratitude. I started small with 5 things I was grateful for when we were in hospital. Our time in hospital was when my fear and anxiety were at their highest, but I knew that if I wanted to change, I needed to start somewhere. So I was grateful for a coffee from the cafe downstairs, a beautiful sunset out the window, the fact that my husband would be coming to relieve me so I could sleep a night in my own bed, or the fact that if something wasn't going to plan, I had the ability and the capacity to advocate for Paddy with doctors and nurses, a privilege not afforded equally to all members of our society. What started as a small practice soon became a life-changing mindset and culminated in a 45-minute short film, which we created to acknowledge Paddy's journey, but predominantly to triumph the doctors, nurses, caseworkers, community groups, family, friends and individuals who rallied around us and supported us during our time of need. We hired the local cinema, and in total 150 people from our community came to view the Gratitude Project. It was in creating this project that I was able to completely flip my life on its head. I took myself from a helpless victim to someone who felt so genuinely lucky and grateful for the life that she had. And by being able to share this with so many, we were able to ripple this new mindset out into our family, friends, and community as well. But it didn't stop there. While gratitude is a small practice, when it's performed consistently, it can have truly life-changing outcomes. Every night in our household, when we sit down for dinner, we ask each other, "What's the favourite part of your day?" And we do this because we wanted to actively teach our children that there is something good in every day, even on the most challenging, if you're willing to look for it. Little did we realise that this would be put to the ultimate test nearly 2 years ago, on the day we received a call to say that Paddy's tumour had returned and his treatment was no longer working. That day was so heavy for our family. But as we sat down for dinner that night, my daughter asked, as she always did, "Hey Mum, what's the favourite part of your day?" And while every part of me just wanted to cry and say nothing, there is nothing good about this day, I decided instead to use my practice of gratitude to find the good. And so I answered honestly and said, "You know what, today this is pretty hard because the news we had was so huge. But I'm grateful that Dad was there with me when we got the call. I'm grateful for some flowers that I picked from the garden. And I'm grateful for the fact that we're all here together eating dinner." You see, creating a new narrative doesn't mean living in denial and pretending everything's okay when it isn't. It's about acknowledging the realities of your life, but choosing to make the best of it anyway. That night I had a choice, and for the sake of myself and for my family, I chose the narrative that focused on love, kindness and connection, not fear and helplessness. Armed with this new outlook on life, gratitude as my guiding light, I stepped out into society, only to realise that not everyone shared my positivity around Paddy's disability and diagnosis, but rather my new narrative would now be constantly tested and challenged by individuals and societal norms. Let me share an example with you. The sun was shining. It was the first day I'd got to hold Paddy's hand and walk down the main street together. This was a moment 4 years and countless hours of physiotherapy in the making. And I remember feeling like I was in this complete bliss bubble, just soaking in the gravity and the beauty of this moment for us both. When an elderly resident approached and decided to share her take on our situation. "Oh, poor boy, what's wrong with him? He's had a tough time." I could have let this woman challenge my narrative. Hers was one created and growing up in a time when children with disability were to be pitied. But I knew that this wasn't my truth. And as all of this was playing out in front of Paddy, I knew there was no way that I wanted this to be his narrative in life. And so I responded honestly and said, "It's a great day, isn't it, Paddy? The sun's shining, it's our first time walking down the street, we're having a fabulous day." And I hoped that as she passed, something in her stopped and reflected and thought, "Oh, I'd never thought of it like that." Sociologists Bulmer and Mead suggest that this moment can be explained through social interactionist theory. And what this theory suggests is that an individual's behaviour towards a person or a thing is a result of their own meaning that they apply to it, which is based upon their experiences and interactions. What this means is that every one of us in the room here has the ability to either positively or negatively impact each other through the interaction of our stories. And in doing so, we have the potential also to change the society in which we live. Have a think. Have you ever applied a limiting belief to someone with a disability or from a different cultural or socioeconomic background? Limiting narratives still exist for many minority groups in our society today. And I can say firsthand that constantly challenging norms which assume there's something wrong with children with disability and that they must first prove their ability rather than being granted the presumption that they have ability is completely exhausting. It's heartbreaking and it needs to change. So how do we change? How do we as a society come together to bring awareness to the bias of our narratives and instead collaborate to create narratives that provide people with disability with the dignity of high expectation? As Paddy's mum, I've always aimed high for him in life and expected that he'll be offered the same opportunities afforded to his brother and sister. I think part of my high expectation comes from the fact that I've always actively sought members of examples of greatness within the vision impaired community. People who are parliamentarians, lawyers, Paralympians, exceptional parents and musicians. And that doesn't mean that Paddy must become someone of this calibre, for I understand that success is measured in a variety of ways. But I've always believed that you should aim high in life and you might just surprise yourself. This is the same when we work with teachers and allied health professionals to collaborate and create goals for Paddy. These people create bold goals of high expectation for Paddy because we as parents aim high and set the bar at that height for them. As a teacher myself, I've spent the last 12 months learning high-impact teaching practices, a truly eye-opening and transformative practice based upon the science of learning. But perhaps my greatest aha moment from it all was the realisation that the thing that has the greatest impact on student outcome and achievement is their teachers' expectations. And this is further supported by research that suggests that teacher expectations impact the way they treat their students in ways that create self-fulfilling prophecies. That's to say, students who are treated as high achievers will perform in high achieving ways, but conversely, those treated as low achievers will perform as low achievers. It seems in this instance that our expectations can indeed create reality. By collaborating with all who work with Paddy to set bold goals of high expectation and similarly promoting these within our school and community environment, Paddy's peers don't assume that he can't do something because of his disability. They know that he can and he will. It may look different. He may read and write using Braille. He may shoot a hoop by someone tapping on the ring behind so he can locate it. But he will achieve the same or a parallel goal. Paddy's vision support teacher at school offers Braille lessons to students who wish to learn in their lunchtime, and she struggles to keep up with demand. For his birthday and at Christmas, Paddy is showered in Braille cards, and his friends make him tactile craft, because what these children understand is that by making small adjustments, you can create friendship, and be inclusive. In fact, I heard the most beautiful conversation between Paddy and a friend just the other day. And this little girl said to him, "Hey Paddy, do you know they have blind people at the Paralympics? That could be you one day." And what I love so much about this little moment is that this 8-year-old girl does not see Paddy's disability as an obstacle, but she sees it as an opportunity. And more than that, she wants to make sure that he knows that and he sees that too. This is the change we need. Can you imagine a world where these children grow up to lead organisations and create policy with narratives that provide people with disability the dignity of high expectation? I cannot wait to live and to see that world. Ironically, in a speech that thus far has been all about changing narratives, in fact, nothing in my situation has changed since the story I told you at the beginning. Paddy still has a brain tumour, he is still on treatment, he still suffers from endocrine illnesses, and he is still blind, just as the world around us continues to be marred by prejudice and war. But at the same time, absolutely everything has changed, because I've changed. And in changing myself, I've been able to change and impact my family and the community in which I live as well. We have felt the emotions of our journey deeply. And there have definitely been times where the narrative was, "It is just too hard today. Let's try again tomorrow." But the secret is that we always did try again. And in doing so, we've created narratives of gratitude to cope with the realities that we cannot change. We have stood firm and challenged the social norms that surround Paddy and his disability. And we have collaborated with everyone around us to ensure and create the narratives of high expectation that we wish to see in this world. You see, it only takes one small change, one good story, to change your life and the community in which you live. So, what will your narrative be? Oh my gosh.